Minnesota Timberwolves became the latest NBA team to fire its coach. Could Wednesday's visit to the Ford Center be next? I'm Mike Sherman, and this is the NBA and OKC with Mike Baldwin. Mike, Randy Whitman got fired yesterday as coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kevin McHale, the general manager, now gets to coach this team that has lost 11 out of 15 games. Whitman's the third coach to be fired this season, following Eddie Jordan in Washington, PJ Carlesimo here in Oklahoma City, and then Sam Mitchell up in Toronto. What's going on?
Well, it's an unusual climate, but the rumors were McHale was in town when they played the Thunder in the Ford Center, that if they didn't win that night, he may have been fired then. The fact they won a close game down to the wire, a lot of people think that was a stay of execution for him just a week to 10 days ago, so he had been on the hot seat. The Memphis coach has been on the hot seat since the start. Also, everybody knew they'd be a bad team. What puzzles me is most of these teams, other than Toronto, were rebuilding, and everybody said we're going to be patient. And yet everybody's saying we're not winning enough. Part of it is with ticket prices being the way they are, fans expect wins right now. And so I guess 2-20 is not good enough when you're not showing the effort with the Thunder. Some of these other teams are going through similar things. But you hope it doesn't become the climate that it's all about wins and losses, when a lot of times management's saying we're building for the future. But if you don't win right now, you're in trouble too. So it's been a very unusual start. This is rare for have this many coaches fired, maybe over a whole season, during the season. A lot of times it's at the end of the season, much less the first 5 weeks.
Reggie Theus on the hot seat in Sacramento. As you said, Mark Ivoroni on the hot seat in Memphis. Maybe it's as much about how they're losing and not how many.
Well, that's the way it was for the Thunder. I think some of these other teams, they don't expect to be playoff teams, but when you're losing by 10, 20 points, you have long losing streaks, you can't even get wins at home. I think a lot of times management says that's enough, we got to see more than this.
Okay, so the Thunder goes to Memphis.
Memphis is here.
They went to Memphis a couple weeks
Right.
ago and beat them, and the word out of Memphis was that the firing watch had begun. Then they beat the Timberwolves early. Would the Lakers fire Phil Jackson if the Thunder beat him in a couple of months here?
I don't think so, but it's starting to look like the Thunder is the benchmark, that one loss counts as 10, I guess, because when you're 2-20, everybody's saying, well, you lost to them? You know, it's sort of like if you lose to the Lions in the NFL, that wouldn't be a good thing. But this team is better than that. If management for other teams are using it, you just lost on the Thunder. If they end up with the 15 to 20 wins that most of us expect somewhere down the road, it's got to be a lot deeper than that. If it is, management's making mistakes just judging their whole season on you can't beat the Thunder.
They got a lot of winning to do to get there. Now, all jokes aside, Mike, a quarter way into the NBA season, the Lakers and the Celtics are the cream of the crop again. Let me ask you this. Who's the best chance of spoiling that NBA Finals rematch in the East and the West?
Well, you told me I could have a Christmas mulligan do-over. One of my picks that I definitely do not like right now is the Hornets winning it all, but they're still a team that's good enough if they build momentum going into the playoffs, depending on where they're seated in the West. I mean, a couple of other teams in the West you got to keep an eye on is how they develop over the long haul. I don't know if Phoenix is going to be good enough. I think they'll drop more than rise. Portland's probably too young. I actually think the Lakers, unless the Hornets or Spurs, somebody like that, really has a good playoff run, will have an easier spot to the finals than the Celtics were in the East, which last year was just the opposite. Everybody said it's a gauntlet in the West. Whoever gets out will be the best team and probably win it. This year, I like Cleveland a lot. Orlando's playing well. I mean, Detroit will get its act together at some point. Right now, they're not playing well. You can keep going down the list. There's 5 or 6 quality teams for a change in the East. So I actually think the Celtics arguably are the best team again. But we saw with Atlanta last year in the playoffs. I think for the Boston to get back to the finals, Cleveland's playing really well with LeBron and them. And like I said, some of these other teams are. The playoffs will be a lot of fun. We're jumping ahead of ourselves. But without question, a quarter pole, as they say, into the season, it's the Celtics and Lakers right now are the 2 teams to beat.
December 21st, one of those competitors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, will be at the Ford Center. We've seen the Celtics. It'll be an interesting measuring stick for that. Mike, the Thunder fell to 2-20 Monday with that loss to Golden State Warriors. What's the word on the Thunder around the league?
Well, I think everybody knew they were going to rebuild and that they were going to go through some tough times, but a lot of people still like the 3 young players. They like Durant and Green that were on the all-rookie team last year. They're starting to like Westbrook's athleticism, making a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, but that's expected for rookies. I mean, even the Derrick Roses that are the leading candidates for Rookie of the Year, I mean, they sometimes have those off nights and growing pains. I think everybody likes their foundation. I think everybody's a little puzzled why they're not winning a little bit more. Everybody thought they'd be one of the worst 2 or 3 teams in the league. But, 2-20, I think, has puzzled everybody. They like their foundation, but everybody knows they definitely are struggling right now.
The Texas two-step, as you refer to it, happens Saturday and Sunday. First in Dallas, and then Sunday in San Antonio. You'll be there. is this a bad time for the Thunder to be catching those two teams?
It's the worst time. 2 or 3 weeks ago, it would have been ideal. I mean, Dallas gets off to a horrendous start. They're having a little bit of chemistry problems, trying to learn the new coach's system. I mean, Avery Johnson's no longer there. People trying to learn their roles. San Antonio's banged up. 2 of their star players aren't playing. Guess what? They're both back. Both of these teams are playing good basketball right now. They're slowly climbing up the West standings. How far they can climb remains to be seen. We'll see what transpires the rest of the week. But, yeah, their odds of winning or going to steal a win would have been a lot better 2 or 3 weeks ago, because right now the Spurs and Mavericks are playing well.
The Memphis Grizzlies come Wednesday to the Ford Center. On Saturday, the Thunder goes and plays the Dallas Mavericks. And then Sunday in San Antonio, Mike will be there. Thanks, Mike. And that's all for the NBA and OKC, but you can continue the conversation at Oklahoma City's newest NBA fan website, thundermadness.com, and then follow all the news and analysis at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.
You can see it.